Okay, today's video is going to be about medians and mid-segment. So we have two EQs. How is a mid-segment formed and what relationships can be found from it? And how is a median formed and what relationships can be found from it? So we're going to start with our mid-segment. The mid-segment of a triangle, it connects the midpoints of two sides of the triangle. So that's the important part. It's connecting midpoints. The endpoints are made up from midpoints. It's parallel to the third side. So for instance, I could say that this one is parallel to this one. And then it's half the length of the third side. So that's going to be one of our relationships. So I'm going to highlight what you would see. So it says X is the midpoint of AC, Y is the midpoint of AB. Then XY is the mid-segment. It would be parallel to CB, and it would be half the length of CB as well. And then you could have different mid-segments. So XZ would be the mid-segment parallel to AB, and then half the length. And you could have the mid-segment ZY parallel and half the length of AC. So we're going to do an example. We're given the picture here. You can see that Q is the midpoint of KL, shown that each piece is congruent all the way around the triangle. So it says QR is 2, so I'm going to mark that on there. Then what is LJ? So QR is the mid-segment, parallel, and half the length of LJ. So that means if QR is 2, LJ is 4. So that means that this whole thing is 4, each piece being 2. So notice that it's congruent. Each piece is congruent to QR. And then it says if KJ is 8, so if this entire thing is 8, what is QS? So it's going to be half of that, which is 4. So you can see that each of these would be 4 as well. And then it says down here at the bottom, if RS was 6, what is the perimeter of both triangles? So if RS was 6, KL would be 12. And you can see that this one would be congruent to each KQ and QL. So if we're going to do perimeter, we're going to add them all up. So if I were to do the perimeter of triangle KLJ, I would have 12 plus 4 plus 8, which is going to be 24. And then if I wanted to do the perimeter of the smaller triangle, triangle QRS, I would have 2 plus 4 plus 6, which would be 12. Now you can notice that the perimeter of the smaller triangle is half of the larger triangle because the smaller triangle is made up of the mid-segments, which is half of each of the side. So we're going to move on to our next special segment, which is median. So the median is made up from connecting the vertex of a triangle to the midpoint of the opposite side. So from the vertex of one side to the midpoint of the other one. And then centroid, it's called the point of concurrency. That's basically saying where all of the medians meet. And then we have a special relationship here, which we're going to talk about. 2/3 the distance from vertex to the side, and then the center is the balance. So if you were to balance the triangle, that's where it would balance at. So you can see that each side is broken apart. 10 and 10, 6 and 6, 5 and 5. So they all are hitting the midpoint and then the opposite vertex. That's where the median comes from. So on the left, you have the obtuse triangle, what it would look like, and on the right, you have the acute triangle. So here's the important relationship that we were talking about. The distance from the vertex, so if you're going from C, the vertex to the centroid X is twice the length or twice the distance from the midpoint X to the midpoint P to the centroid. So if CX was 4, then XP would be half that, which would be 2. Or you could say that CX was 10, XP would have to be half, which is 5. So we're going to use that in our example down here at the bottom. So in this picture, it says that RL is 21. So I'm going to take 21 and divide by 3 because I know there are 2 parts here and 1 part here. So 21 divided by 3 is 7. So I know that RS would be 7, which would make SL 14, or LS would be 14. And then NQ is what we're trying to find here, and they told us that SQ is 4. So I know that this smaller piece is 1 part, this larger piece is 2 times that. So I would take 4, multiply by 2, and I would get 8. So NS would be 8, SQ is 4, so if I add those together, 8 plus 4, I get 12. So NQ would be 12.